Yes, the floor is yours, Lou.
Okay. So good day, Dr. Haas and my friends. We are from Group 1 and today we'll be presenting about polluter pays principles. So the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, first introduced the Polluter Pays Principle, PPP, in 1972. The polluter principle stated that the polluter should bear the expenses of carrying out the pollution prevention and control measures introduced by the public authorities to ensure that the environment is in an acceptable state. Sime Darby simply state the PPP implies that the costs associated with pollution are to be paid by polluter, not by government or society. For instance, a factory that produces a potentially poisonous substance as a byproduct of its activity is usually held responsible for its safety disposal. The polluter pay principle is actually grounded in Principle 16 of the Rio Declaration on the Environment and Development 1992, to which Malaysia is a party. The principle underpins the most of the regulation of pollution affecting land, water, and air. PPP has evolved from an economic concept holding polluters accountable for the direct cost of pollution to an actionable principle requiring polluters to pay for emergency response and cleanup costs to having polluters pay compensation to the victims of pollutions. Next, we're going to look about how polluters pays principle is related to sustainable development. Today, the PPP is one of the core principles of sustainable development. The concept of sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The PPP has been applied more specifically to emissions of greenhouse gases which cause climate change. The application of this principle is to combat the climate change and its impacts in order to achieve sustainable development. The greenhouse emissions are considered a form of pollution because they cause potential harm and damage through impacts on the climate. Therefore, it is possible to imply the PPP through called a carbon price. This imposes a charge on the emission of greenhouse gases equivalent to the corresponding potential causes through future climate change. In this way, a financial incentive is created for a factory, for instance, to minimize its costs by reducing emissions. The PPP has been applied to international shipping, which causes pollution from ships. The application of this principle is to conserve and sustainability of seas, oceans, and their resources for sustainable development. The PPP has a liability and compensation mechanism is prevalent throughout ship sources pollution law to improve the safety and security of international shipping and to prevent pollution from ships. How to incorporate the principle in Sime Darby's products? The PPP implied by Sime Darby integrates all greenhouse gases emitters, whether they are in addition to the fact that developing countries should receive support too. Sime Darby Plantation is committed to play a leading role in establishing a sustainable future for the palm oil industry. By incorporating the PPP, they should set a line on deforestation. Deforestation contributes to the global change of climate change and the rapid loss of biodiversity and precious natural ecosystems. In this is driving the increased intensity of questions about the sustainability of palm oil production. In order to prevent climate change, locating plantation only on agriculture and fallow lands, not at the cost of forest cuts, is required. They should also cut down the trees which are aged. Therefore, the green area will not reduce and the carbon dioxide will not increase too. For the climate change, scarcity of resources and improper management of waste and effluents are pressing environmental issues on the global scales that have the potential to pose regulatory, physical, and reputational risks to Sime Darby operations. Climate change offers an example of this and other complex issues associated with tracking down all the present and future harms associated with greenhouse gases emissions, the internalizing them at the time for the emissions of product, the economically efficient level of production and pollutions. That's all for our group. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Liu Ti for your presentation. I think there are some questions that I would like to ask, but at the end of the whole presentation, yeah, but not now. Thank you, very clear. Apa nama tu? And the slides are very well prepared as well. Okay, now we go to the second group. Second group, I would like to invite Izzat Ikhwan to present your topic on precautionary principle. Izzat, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum and good morning to Dr. Has and my fellow classmates. So today our group, which is group 2, will share and presenting about precautionary principle and environmental. So I would like to introduce my group mate, which consists of Mok Chong Jin, Nur Alia Shahada, Sam Jawi, and also myself as the presenter, Izzat Ikhwan. So we're going to discuss about 3 different topics, which are definition, and the first topic, which is definition and explanation of the given environment principle. The second topic is how each principle is related to sustainable development. The third topic is how to incorporate the principle in the company's products. So for the first question, our group refer to the principle 15 of Rio Declaration. The precautionary principle is a notion which support taking protective action before there is complete scientific proof of a risk. That is, action should not be delayed simply because full scientific information is lacking. The precautionary principle or precautionary approach has been incorporated into several international environmental agreements, and some claim that it is now recognized as general principle of international environmental law. In the fields of food safety, plant, animal health protection, the need to taking precautionary action in the face of scientific uncertainty has long been widely accepted. There is says that where there are threats of serious or irreversible damage, lack of full scientific certainty shall not be used as a reason for postponing cost-effective measures to prevent environmental degradation. For instances, when a sudden outbreak of an animal disease such as COVID-19, for example, is suspected of being linked to imports and trade restriction must be immediately imposed while further information about the source of the outbreak and its extent are gathered. So for the second topic, which is how each principle is related to sustainable development, our group incorporated the precautionary principle to the sustainable development goals by using 3 legs tool model. So the 3 legs tool model have three main components, which economy, social equity, and environment. So to achieve this three legs two model, the economy should be viable, and the social equity should be desirable, and environment need to be environmentally responsible. So for the economy, uh, the by using the precautionary principle, the economy should have to have lots of employment, profitable enterprises, good infrastructure, fair trade, and have lots of security. So by having this viable economically, using the precautionary principle, we can achieve the sustainable goals like you guys can see in the slide, which is example one, which is end poverty in all its form everywhere. And example two, end hunger, achieve food security and adequate nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. And also example eight, promote sustained, inclusive, sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. So for the second component, which is social equity, so the social need to be desirable, which is working condition must be good, the health services, education services, community and culture, social justice, all of that need to be uh, taken care of and ensure that it is on the highest level so that we can achieve the sustainable development goal. So as we can see in example 4, by desirably achieve the social equity, we can provide inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls everywhere. So the third component, which is environmental. So the environment need to be responsible, which is reduce pollution and waste, renewable energy, conservation and restoration. So by doing all that, we can ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, ensure access to affordable, sustainable and modern energy for all. So for the third question, which how to incorporate the principle in the company's products, which is in this situation, Sime Darby company. So our group are going to focus more on Sime Darby palm oil company. So first of all, achieving economic growth through yield intensification of the existing land bank in all crops, and striving to embed climate resilience into all our plantation operations and associated smallholders and communities. No new development of peat areas, regardless of that or location. We will also seek to rehabilitate existing planting on peat where possible. Zero tolerance of the use of fire within the boundaries and conservation areas, and the establishment of effective monitoring and prevention systems, including haze, will be seen as fire. And also we also include the protect and disclose plantation and land banks. So for the first is measurement and initiative to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, protecting waterways through minimization of water extraction and robust influent treatment systems, and the development of water accountability protocols within all our plantation. Um, Safeguarding the fertility of soils, and where possible enhance this through good agricultural practices based on best available science, minimizing the impact of all our polluting activities, and monitoring and treating influence from plantations, mills, and refineries as part of our total water accountability program. So they're all from us. The three topic that we have discussed. So that's all from us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Group 3. Thank you, Izzat. Very, very good slides, yeah. Very informative, and also you managed to show the link between precautionary and also principle, and also how it can be used, not the link, how the precautionary principle can be used by Sime Darby Berhad. Now we go to the third group, which is group 3. Spokesperson will be King Tekleh. Is King here? Yeah.
Good morning,
The
Dr.
topic is preventive principle. Morning, King. Okay, the floor is yours, King.
Betul boleh nampak slide?
Boleh, and can hear you very clearly.
Okay, so saya mula. Good
Boleh,
morning
boleh.
Good morning to Dr. As and all of my classmates. Today we are going to present about the concept of preventive principle in the environmental law and how it linked to the project in the Sime Darby. And we are from group 3, and we are from group 3. Our group mates consists of Jasmine and No Sarah Amira and No Hasina. Next. And the definition of the preventive principle is the principle requires the preventive measure be taken to anticipate and avoid environmental damage before it happens. The prevention principle is the fundamental notion behind law regulating the generation, transportation, treatment, storage, and disposal of hazardous waste, and law regulating the use of pesticides. This principle allows the action to be taken to protect the environmental at the early stage, and this principle marks the second stage of environmental action for environmental protection. This protection not only a question of repairing damage after they have occurred, but to prevent those damage occurring at all. And the function of preventive principle is to avoid transboundary pollution, prevent pollution at the source, and minimize environmental damage and reduce the risk of harm. Next slide. And how the preventive principle is related to the sustainable development, I will discuss in the context of sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. One of the sustainable development goals is to combat climate change and its impacts. Since the carbon dioxide levels and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere rose to a new record in 2019, and the climate change is affecting every country on every continent. It is disrupting national economies and affecting life, and weather patterns are changing, sea level are rising, and the weather events are becoming more extreme, like the banjir. And although the greenhouse gas emissions are projected to drop about 6% in 2020 due to the travel bans and economic slowdowns resulting in the COVID-19 pandemic, the improvement is just only temporary, and the climate change is not on pause. Once the global economy begins to recover in the pandemic, emissions are expected to return back at higher levels. Then the increase in the carbon dioxide will cause a rising of the temperature and the weather and lead to climate change. Thus, the preventive principle action will be taken out by reducing the carbon dioxide. For example, planting more trees and increasing the green areas to reduce the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, because the plants carry out the transpiration process, and the carbon dioxide will be decreased during the transpiration process. Therefore, this can prevent the climate change. Next slide. And the last question is how this principle is incorporated to the company product. The climate change, security of the resources, and improper management of waste and effluents are raising environmental issues, and on a global scale, they have the potential to pose regulatory, physical, and reputational risk to Sime Darby operation. It is therefore imperative that the group's environmental footprint is proactively managed. Sime Darby Plantation SDP is committed to play a leading role in establishing a sustainable future for the palm oil industry. By incorporating the preventive principle, they should set a line on deforestation, and the deforestation contributes to the global challenge in the climate change and the rapid loss of biodiversity and precious natural ecosystem. This is driving the increased intensity of the question about the sustainability of the palm oil production. In order to prevent the climate change, locating plantation only on agriculture and fallow lands, not at the cost of forest cuts, is required. They should also cut down the trees which are aged, and replanting should be done after the tree felling activities. Therefore, the green area will be reduced. The green area will not be reduced, and the carbon dioxide will not increase, so that the climate change can be prevented. Sime Darby Plantation SDP should adopt friendly practice and initiative nature in agriculture waste disposal and the plantation to prevent the open burning. This can prevent the occurrence of large-scale open burning as a result of the tree felling that caused the hedge. And that's all for our group. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, King. Yeah, I think the design of the slides are very nice, and also I think your group answered directly the questions and the 3 questions or the 3 things that I need to be addressed, same as group 2 just now. Okay. Group 4 is represented by Ku Kefu, who is going to present the topic on environmental social governance, ESG. Okay, Ku, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, Doctor and my fellow classmates. Today I'm going to present environmental social governance, which is ESG. So our team members who has Ku Kefu, Leong Ka Chun, Nur Fatin Aisha, and Si Hui Yan. So for the next slide. So for the definition, generate environmental, social, and governance criteria can be referred as a set of standards for company operations that socially conscious the investor use to screen the potential investment. Environmental criteria consider how a company performs as a stable of nature. ESG, that stands for environmental, social, and governance, can be expressed as E includes environmental criteria like greenhouse gas emissions, energy use, and waste energy generation. S covers field labor practices, diversity, and human rights. And G involves the corporate governance like anti-bribery, anti-corruption efforts, and board diversity. For next slide. So for a relation of ESG to sustainable development, the first one is zero hunger. Through the foundation, they support the needy community with complementary food supply. For the second one is no poverty. For example, Sime Darby can create a foundation to support a community such as a poor family, financially and in kinds. Sime Darby can provide a job opportunity to the community where they are operating. For next one is the affordable and clean energy. Investment in solar power energy. Collaboration with the renewable energy developers to reduce the carbon emission. The next one is the good health and well-being. Set up a 24-hour clinic to provide essential health services to the employees and the community. Implementing a various safety initiatives to reduce the illness and fatality from the hazardous chemical, air and water contamination. Effective waste and effluent management, which is in compliance with the authority laws and regulation. For next one is the gender equality. Creating a gender-balanced workforce. Continuous awareness via training and town hall to cultivate the respectful workplace with zero discrimination. Independence grievance channel and whistleblowing channel to raise the grievance. Implementing a prevention of sexual harassment policy and prevention of bullying policy. Balance the gender ratio in terms of managerial position. For last one is the quality education. For example, they can providing a scholarship for higher education and support in school upgrading and facility initiative. For the next slide. There are some ways to incorporate the ESG criteria in the company's product. During the producing the process of the product, there are some efforts that can be carried out in order to fulfill the environmental criteria. Since Sime Darby company is mainly focused on the agriculture sector, hence the company has the responsibility to track the carbon emissions, energy and water consumption at the water disposal. Next, identify and implement the water, waste and energy efficient measures. For example, the company has to develop the new biogas power plants to reduce the carbon emission in the agriculture sector. Biogas is formed naturally when palm oil liquid waste is decomposed under the anaerobic conditions. Without control, biogas is a major contributor to global climate change. Biogas power plants take advantage of the natural decomposition process to generate the electricity. This waste produced during the production of palm oil is large energy source. Biogas can produce energy while reducing the impact of global climate change. Moreover, incorporation of ESG in the company's product in terms of social is to respect, support, and uphold the fundamental human rights. Respect on human rights is important because it will ensure the company operation do not impede on the rights of the people and their cultural values. Sime Darby may also support their stakeholders in order to build their own sustainable future. Then, by implementing the fair employment practices across the group, will also ensure that the workforce is diverse and employees' overall productivity and creativity is enhanced. Sime Darby may also embrace the diversity and inclusion through the initiatives such as the integration of knowledge. In the efforts to operationalize the business and human rights, Sime Darby must be aware that it is important for their people to have the necessary knowledge and awareness. Therefore, in order to achieve a sustainable development, various training programs and workshops should be carried out to ensure that the different levels of workforce have the correct capacity in terms of human rights. Last but not least, in terms of governance, the company is encouraged to use the accurate and transparent accounting methods and that the stockholders are allowed to vote on important issues. The governance dimension is focused on business leadership and structure. The company also plays an important role in promoting the integrity, transparency, accountability, and responsiveness. A good business performance of a company depends on firm strategy and management. To ensure the successful product development, it requires a deep understanding of the firm's strategy and operation, excellent project management skills, and a sound understanding of risk management to be in place. For example, the company has to develop a board charter which set out the board strategy intent and outline the board powers and responsibilities, and for those which delegates to the management. This aims to attract, motivate, and retain the individuals of high talent at the board of director levels to drive the company business goal and strategy and ensure the long-term business sustainability. That's all for my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ko. Okay, so we go to the final group, Group 5. Group 5 will be represented by Pang Wei Yao. Pang will present the topic of green marketing. Again, this green marketing is not explained by me in our lecture, so I am hoping that Group 5 will be able to explain green marketing well. Okay, floor is yours, Pang. Okay, can start now.
All right, thank you, Doctor. So good morning, everyone, Dr. Haas and my fellow group mates and my fellow classmates. So we are from Group 5 and we will be presenting green marketing. So our team members consist of T. Yilin, Tan Wen Yong, and Siti Nurhaliza, and me, Pang Wai Yao. So next, please. So green marketing actually refers to selling products or services by highlighting their environmental benefits. For example, when we go to the shop, we see the words like organic, recyclable, sustainable, or eco-friendly. So yeah, this is all considered as green marketing. So the concept of green marketing appeared as the after effect of humans' negative impact on our planet. So it means that last time there is no green marketing, but because the planet is almost dying, so they started to have this concept. So brands illustrate how they change their missions and practices from a revenue-driven to an environmentally aware by business processes that have the least impact on the environment as possible. So it is also known as ecological marketing and also environmental marketing. Next slide, please. So in this slide, we are going to relate green marketing with sustainable development, which we chose the sustainable development goals to be easier to understand. So the first one is goal number 8, which promotes sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, because green marketing helps to reduce market costs and societal lifetime costs. I think the most important part is actually societal lifetime costs, like the negative effects that they have on the environment, which is a future cost for the future generations. And goal number 12 is ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. So green marketing refused to use harmful products in packaging, which replace plastic with recyclable materials is an example that we see nowadays, all right? So the next 3 goals is all related to the environment, which is climate action, life below water, and life on land. So I think most people understand climate action but don't know what is life below water and life on land. So life below water actually means to conserve the ocean and seas. And life on land means to protect and restore forests and lands, to be easy. So how green marketing works is to reduce the level of pollution in Earth in order to reduce the effects of global warming and also maintain the ecological balance. All right, next slide, please. So now we have to incorporate the green marketing products to Sime Darby, and we classify it into 3 industries of Sime Darby. First is the oil supplement industry, second is the healthcare, and the third one is the logistics and industrial motors industry. So for the first industry, how can Sime Darby work is they can use multifunctional oil use or reduce plastic packaging. Why is that so? Because to avoid wastage, the waste of the cooking oil can actually be reused again to make and produce biodiesel. So this will reduce the waste of oil. And another one is reduces the use of plastic by introducing reusable packaging and use recyclable materials, such as biodegradable plastic instead of the plastic that won't die after a million years, right? So another one is for healthcare, because it's like a clinic, so you can go paperless in healthcare. For example, you give bills and invoice by email to reduce the paper waste. And the second one would be because they have hospital and all, so they can use power-saving light fixtures and bulbs. It's a thing that the company can control by replacing the conventional lighting systems with LED lighting. And the last one is buy remanufactured ink and toner if they really can't go paperless for some documents. All right. So for the third one is for Sime Darby logistics, industrial and motors, still the same. They can use biodiesel because this helps to reduce emissions of carbon dioxide from the machines. And they can use eco-friendly cleaning products for their whole Sime Darby industry, because eco-friendly cleaning products such as some made from coconut oil, they do not contain any highly damaging chemicals such as chlorine, phosphates, and nitrates, which cause pollution to the environment. So even though it's like a small effort, but actually it helps a lot if everybody changed to this stuff. So that's all from us, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you to all groups. It allows precautionary and also preventive principle. Allow, but ada but tu. But precautionary, preventive principle. But the degree of allow tu, or the degree of disallow is different. It's like this. If there is a spectrum, yang mengatakan allow ke tak allow, precautionary principle is more relaxed. Preventive principle is more tight, ke arah tidak allow. Tetapi both membolehkan dengan syarat, with condition. Because remember, need to balance kan? Need to balance the three-legged stools, okay? But precautionary principle, okay? The main point is, even though there is no scientific evidence saying that that particular activity will be harmful to the environment, no scientific evidence, but but that is indication of some harm, of some risk associated with that particular activity. Okay, ada risk tapi tak boleh dibuktikan lagi. No scientific evidence, tetapi ada risk. We know there's a certain risk of allowing some activities to be undertaken. For instance, building a nuclear generation, nuclear, what do you call that? Generation plant. Is it generation plant? A nuclear plant to generate nuclear energy. Okay, we know that there are certain risks associated with opening or with allowing nuclear plant, especially in countries like Japan that is prone to earthquakes, for instance. Kita tahu bahawa ada risk but still allow to happen, allow to occur. But precautionary actions must be undertaken. Precautionary principle mesti berjaga-jaga, must put in precautionary measures. Dia tak boleh you disregard saja. Dia tak boleh allow saja. So both are not allowed. Simply allowing without any precautions or simply not allowing, saying that it is risky. We don't know the degree of the risk, kan? So it could be a very little risk, very minimal risk of happening. So why should we prevent? Why should we avoid an activity which can potentially be beneficial to society as well? Because the nuclear power plant, it generates energy, betul tak? So allow, but so under precautionary principle, you must take certain precautions lah. Under preventive principle, okay, try to avoid, try to look for the alternative lah if possible. Avoid from happening, try to avoid sajalah, not disallow, try to avoid. The preventive allow but with precautionary measures. Yeah, mesti faham tu. So dua-dua tu bukan kata no, tak boleh langsung, no. Kita sekarang, we are talking about sustainable development. That's what I want you guys to understand. Which is not the environmental law principles that we are discussing is not something that says no to economic development, says no to economic activities. No, bukan. It just the environmental law principles or the environmental concepts that we discuss is a way to try to balance the three legs of the stool. And okay, good and no good. Okay lah, the understanding tu a bit shaky. So kena faham betul-betul, kena faham betul-betul the environmental principles, because this we can find again in EQA, Environmental Quality Act. Our EQA is a strong proponent. Proponent tu ialah penyokong, dia menyokong penuh sustainable development. It is a very strong supporter of sustainable development principle. Okay, that's one tool to achieve sustainable development in this country. The law, the Environmental Quality Act. But at the same time, the law is just law. Okay, especially in terms of enforcement and monitoring. Okay, one, we don't have enough manpower to monitor, betul. There's not enough manpower, not enough skilled manpower to do enforcement, betul. So law is there. Okay, the law is as good as its enforcement and monitoring. Maknanya the law can be perfect, but if it's not enforced, if it's not monitored, law tu the law is just like a toothless tiger. Faham tak? Have you heard of toothless tiger before? Are you scared of the tiger? Yes. But are you scared of a toothless tiger? No. Dia nak buat apa? No tooth, it cannot. Tak boleh gigit you kan? It cannot bite you. Betul tak? So a law is as good as its enforcement and monitoring. So law tu can be perfect. On paper, everything has been covered. Kesalahan satu, wrongdoing number one, the breach number 1, 2, 3, penalty is such and such. But if there's no enforcement, people will not be afraid to break the law. Because they say I can do whatever I like. I can not follow the law, and there's no action will be and no action will be taken against me. So why should I be afraid? Why should I follow the law? So law is as good as its enforcement and monitoring, especially so when we're talking about the Environmental Quality Act. must be monitored. But the problem is, the problem is one, who is going to monitor, who is going to enforce. As we learn from the EQA, kan? It has the two the two things that we cover, which is the prescribed activities and prescribed premises that are there to protect the environment. But again, and all the penalties are there, but must be monitored and must be enforced by the Department of Environment, DOE, or in this case in Malay is JAS, JAS, Jabatan Alam Sekitar. Okay. Now, so be clear that the principles are there to aid in achieving sustainable development. It does not present a barrier to economic development. No, the principles. Okay, dia cuma tolong, dia guiding how the economic activities can be undertaken. Okay, how the economic growth can be achieved without sacrificing the environment in this case. Will the government, ask Sime Darby to pay damages, even though it will cause undue hardship to Sime Darby? Ni eksekutif baru nak tanya ni. Eksekutif baru tanya. You rasa-rasa government akan ask for maximum penalty ke? Yang akan menyusahkan Sime Darby in terms of it will make Sime Darby to go bankrupt ke, or to retrench, to start retrenching people under the COVID-19 situation. Dah lah tak business. Do you think under the current circumstances, the government will still enforce maximum penalty for environmental crimes? Group 1, you rasa macam mana sekarang? Rasa saja. Can be rasa betul, rasa tak betul.
I believe the penalty will depends on the degree of the
COVID-19? Seeing?
Huh?
Now we're talking about COVID-19, whereby Sime Darby is actually has lost business lah, cannot operate kan, but still ada environmental crime they committed. Do you think the government will punish them again, even though they know Sime Darby is having financial problem due to COVID?
In my opinion, yes, but also will give some discount.
Oh, discount dia kena, yalah. Yes, in the sense that wants to be a lesson to other cases, for instance, kan, to other environmental criminals, for instance, kan. But at the same time, to take into consideration the current situation, which is COVID-19, give discount. Could be lah. Okay, good answer lah. Oh, I like the way you think. Okay. So answer is simply it depends on the situation, betul. So because of that, again, sustainable development, betul. So you don't want to really punish until the company goes out of business or start retrenching to retrench its workers. No, kan? Tapi nak punish, still needs to punish through this Polluter Pays principle. The penalty should be enough to rehabilitate. I think your group kan rehabilitate to make good the damage. Tu saja. Janganlah punish sampai suffer. Okay, good. We don't have time for me to go to other groups, but going to ESG was okay. Especially I like the how you incorporate in the product. That's very good. Nanti group number 5 boleh share the slide with other friends. But group 4, okay, group 5, I think a little bit you misunderstood the assignment a little bit. The definition of green marketing was okay. Was fine, well defined. But your way of explanation is how to incorporate green marketing products in your product in Sime Darby, which is not what the question wants. The question asks you to incorporate green marketing in Sime Darby's products. So that can be done, for instance, by greening the products. Katakan tadi ni. Okay, go beyond. Let's take an example which is not oil pump or such businesses in Malaysia. Let's go to the tuna the ikan tu, tuna, to the tuna industry, industry which is quite big in some countries. Okay, tuna dia panggil apa? Tuna export import. Tuna industry lah, tuna lah ikan. Industri tuna, industri ikan tuna. Okay, in some countries. At one time, okay, there was this, I don't know whether it's smear campaign or a newly discovered fact that the tunas that they catch from the oceans can, they use the net, okay, when they are catching the tuna fish, okay, tuna fish. At the same time, they catch also dolphins together with the tuna. So the tuna industry, okay, was associated with endangering dolphins. So at one point, the tuna industry the tuna fish industry received bad press lah, very bad reputation for being harmful to wild dolphins lah. So pada masa tu tak popular. So what the tuna industry as a whole, they came together, okay, and then they put a label, dolphin friendly. That can be considered as green marketing. Dia pulihkan keadaan dia dengan gunakan marketing balik. Faham tak? Dia kata it is friendly to dolphins. Dolphin tu bukankah biological entity? Biological entity bukankah environment? So in a way it's green marketing lah. Same here. That can also be incorporated in Sime Darby's products. Sime Darby kan received bad press as well, or flag as well. Dia punya reputation. Together with, okay, you mentioned deforestation, which is very good. Deforestation. A campaign, a smear campaign against Southeast Asia's palm oil. Palm oil kan, dia kata it's very bad for the environment because we cut down the trees. So now the oil palm industry, they try to counter the bad press by campaigning or by disseminating atau menyampaikan good news or good practices, best practices that they incorporate in the oil palm industry. Dia kata, okay, for all the deforestation that they cause, they do this to counter the effect on the environment. And also, they undertook studies which prove that the palm oil to the pokok kan, the palm oil actually produce more oxygen or similar levels of oxygen with the forest that was cut down, to plant the palm oil. So like that. So that can be considered as green marketing. Green marketing. So in the product, if the product is palm oil just now, oil palm just now, palm oil. Palm oil is the oil palm is the tree. Okay, anyway. So the product is palm oil. Okay. They may use green marketing in the sense that they say, okay, it may benefit to the environment. So how they took care of the environment in the process of producing palm oil. Itulah, that is green marketing, not the other way around, not incorporating the plastic, the earth friendly plastic or whatnot. That is the other way. That is not what the task asks you to do, not to incorporate green marketing products, but how to use green marketing for their product.